Paul McCartney decided to put to the test what James Child called preference theory. The idea that it really doesn't matter if they're wrong, they're right. He decided to put this idea to the test to see how far he could push it. There are actually thousands of different ways to prove that the police, the media, and the police system that they've summoned aren't telling the truth. That millions of ways, but they would argue that their lies hide a super reality. So, in other words, when Amanda Harcourt comes and says, you know, um, for Peter Sinfield, I love you, man, and this, and then anybody who knows what they did to me is fully aware that what the Beatles mean by love is absolute cold-blooded hatred. I mean, you're supposed to, it really doesn't matter if they're lying through the teeth. So when they say we're not the ones lying, what they mean is they are the ones lying, but it doesn't matter that they're the ones lying because you prefer them. Now let's talk a little about what we prefer when we prefer them. Shannon Harvest was murdered over a penny, so we prefer the gesticulations and the fanaticism and the carpet ripper logic of Seattle's left, who supported and endorsed Trumpy Tunes militias through the whole thing, claiming that they had a higher order of truth to sell, which meant preference for the attackers. I mean, now let's look at the FBI, the Secret Service, the police services, detective branches, and various militias. One of the things we know from Shannon Harps is they're asking us the thing that we most want to stop, of course, is school shootings. And it's just a way of saying it really doesn't matter. You prefer the school shooters to the victims. Okay, so we know that doesn't matter either. Now you're supposed to understand them through the higher principles of their ideological periscope, like when we saw the Swami Nosha work, using media as a sort of blinking orb, settling feuds by symbolic murders and so on. Hollywood stuff. We know that Swami Nosha traced back to um, media gangs thinking about how to control the world and how to control society for Hollywood and the war makers of the oil industry and stuff. For by Swami Nosha ideas like Edgar Casey and Aleister Crowley and Ouspensky, the whole rock music mentality of phobic weirdo lyrics. So what you're supposed to do is be in awe of this nonsense from attacking civilization. I mean, going on all over the world. Russia is hardly innocent of. They have something called Chernuka films, which are a very, very dark genre that shows you the way that Hollywood has smashed sensibilities in Russia too. For all of the mom and pop good guy talk, you can see from the cinema that Hollywood is wreaking havoc behind the scenes too. The leapfrog oligarchy that believe in like some kind of preposterous nihilism. Well, what is the ideology at work with the police and the FBI and the Secret Service, and how does this prove one of thousands of different ways that you can prove that um, the whole thing is to set up a bunch of BS and the people who are behind it are lying? Well, you're supposed to believe the reason why capitalist police services arrest protesters and hate poets and contract attack prostitutes and what the Russians call compromat. In other words, licky chop sniveling, going so far as to make pornographic snuff films of children. Manson cinema, they call it in Pittsburgh. Mancine, they made it a contraction, but it amounts to Manson cinema. And it's obvious what they did. You just look at pictures of me. You see, I mean, I was reporting I went through a Manson ordeal. I went through a Manson ordeal. And the people behind it kept saying, no, you're lying. No, you're lying. And they superimposed this narrative. Then the proof came up, that conformed perfectly with what I was described. And you could see the injuries, of course. And they used a nerve agent on me as a child. They still continued to lie. It was like the popcorn machine selling popcorn after the bomb goes off in the Monty Python script. So this is how they operate. But what is it that you're supposed to think? Oh, we prefer and understand and comprehend that a child would be tortured or molested, because there are reasons why the FBI, Secret Service, Police Department, and administration of schools. There are reasons why they have a Central Intelligence bias towards innocent people and hate them, furiously hate them. Okay, so it's because the right wing, the Red Scare stuff, right? Friendly fascism looks after mom and dad. It's about your jobs and bread and butter on the table. These naive idealists and so on and so forth. The Kennedys didn't know what they were up against. You want Obama to end up like the Kennedys and so on and so forth. The whole routines of these kinds of litanies. Well, so when Greg Carl struts for his stuff, he says the persona is subjected to successive degradations of the motive. Force is impinging on the persona's experience. The FBI is saying we're going to use control, command and control, internal prompts, implants, neurorepugnant mind manipulation, terrorism, brutal violence on the mind of a child to get what we want as a standard of conformity. Brutal corporal punishment, torture as a form of corporal punishment. Coercive is the word my father would use for it. Coercive obedience of a hostage, because the force is impinging on the hostage's experience, are in the preference mode whereby the FBI detests poets and anything that hands out a flyer saying I question the testimony of George Bush. Everybody says the force must impinge on this persona's experience because it wrote a poem and was sentimental towards a girl. You see, and this is against the Chernukha film genre's idea of mom and dad. Just go with Clint Eastwood, blow everybody away because mom and dad. And this is the FBI circus. It's the little, dot of conscience that the FBI, the police department, and the administration wear. That's their idea of conscience, is that you prefer the right wing sword of slander and neurohypnosis and lies. You prefer it because it really doesn't matter if they're wrong. They're the Beatles. You see how it works? And what they did was they pulled the fastest thing. Hollywood has been dreaming since the 1910s and earlier of the day when they could tell a super story through media, through the blinking orb of your home computer that monitors you and taps into your, prompts, your ideas, detects your ideas and synchronizes them to, the oligarch PlayStation in vote, and tell a super story that was not true. The evacuation of Lenin was part of the super story, a Houdini masterpiece. And they've been dreaming it since World War I and World War II. And it really doesn't matter if they did it. You're going to believe it. And that's how it operates. So they've impinged on your persona a masterpiece of deception. And apparently you're all gagged for it. I'm just telling you what's going on. Homegirl, mano, how it went. I'd like to get the better of it. I've proposed administrative review over Hollywood. I don't think Chernuka film genre and school killings are acceptable. And I don't care what Ringo Starr thinks, literally. If he thinks at all, it's him. It's just like some sort of. I don't see any of this horror as art. They apparently just think, oh, it's art, man. Wow. And we need administrative review of it. That's my opinion. I think people should get wise to the way that Hollywood interfaces with the oil war machine and in the Nazification of the world's camps has this brutal cinema license behind it. It needs to be questioned more forcefully than it has been. So that's just my opinion. I think preference theory was like a challenge to the people who operate behind the scenes. And they figured, well, we have a good thing going with public acceptance of police bias. We can tell them anything and make clear that they gotta believe it no matter what. And it's in their interest to, and they'll be yapping it, barking like seals for a fish. Yep, huh?